Hi. Hi, hello, hi. Okay. This video originally started as like a joke, like it was for a friend, not really a joke, but one of my friends texted me and they were like, oh, I thought the gay firefighters were like actually already together, and I had to be like, no. So, and then I was gonna go on a tangent on like a voice message, and then I was like, you know what, no, fuck that, I'm gonna make a video for you so that you get the visuals, and I expected it to be like a 5 or 10 minute thing, and then I talked for 55 minutes about it and then cut it down to like 30 minutes. And I wasn't gonna post this because it's just me, like stealing jokes off of Twitter. If I stole your joke off of Twitter, I'm sorry. It's because I think you're funny. Take it as appreciation because I think you're funny. I didn't think I was going to post this because I don't post on here anymore, but it's like, I kind of have just reached a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to like dump. I just spit. I've kind of just gotten to a point where I don't care anymore. I forgot to say this, but there's also this person who made a video. I'll put the thumbnail here. If I accidentally steal phrases that like this person used or like topics that this person used talking specifically about Buck and Eddie, that's my bad. I watched that video like a month ago, and I just tend to retain knowledge or like phrases really well. Like if something like scratches my brain in the right way, it sits in there, it marinates in there for like years sometimes. So if I accidentally, use the same phrases, just know that it wasn't meant in a weird like I'm taking this from you way. It was just like an accident, and it just happened to happen. Peace and love. Hope someone enjoys this video because I sure as hell won't. Okay, so honestly, I kind of can't believe I'm filming this because it's downright ridiculous that I've reached a point of brain rot that I'm gonna film this, but you know what? It's a test to see if I actually want to edit, the show and post a video about it, because it's like, do I really want to do that? I don't know. So this is giving me the opportunity to test it out. Basically, to get to the, is 911 queerbaited? To get to that, I'm gonna give you a brief history. Some of the characters, and by some of the characters, I mean, Mr. Buckley, Evan Buckley. So basically, the show is so ridiculous. The show is so ridiculous. When it starts off, it's basically like, this guy's a player, right? And it's just like, okay. And then he starts dating a woman who's like twice his age, named Abby. That's all you really need to know. Why exactly? I can't get into his mind to figure it out, but that's what he does. The other guy, Eddie, isn't introduced until season 2. We know that Eddie was in the army previously. He has a son, Christopher, and he had a wife, but she kind of left them. It's kind of whatever because she's not really a great mother, but he wasn't really a good father because he went into the army when she needed him to be there, and then she dies anyway. So there's that. Basically, Eddie joins the firehouse, the 118, and Buck is like, nah, fuck this guy. He's like, fuck this guy, hate this guy, not a fan, because he's too hot. Like, literally, Eddie's introduced in What a Man Is Playing.
What the hell is that?
Like, okay. They end up pulling a grenade out of someone's leg, and then there's this, like, they kind of flirt with each other after.
You're dead ass under pressure, brother. Me? Hell yeah. You can have my back any day.
There's this line about having each other's backs, which they don't mean to reference this later on, but it gets referenced where basically one of the characters is like, doesn't everyone just want their partner to have their back?
I mean, isn't that what we all want in a partner? Knowing that they have your back? Yep.
You can have my back any day. You could have mine.
And then you think back and you're like, oh my god, remember that time that Buck and Eddie said that to each other? Yeah. Eddie, like an episode or two later, shares that he has a son with Buck, and Buck is someone who loves kids, so he's immediately like, oh my god, I see my friend and he has a son, and I care about my friend, therefore I care about his son. And Buck feels like this sense of like protectiveness because Eddie's son has cerebral palsy. You just see this clip where Buck is like looking, it's like this longing, yearning kind of look at Eddie and his son as they get reunited after like after an earthquake. I couldn't remember the word earthquake. I was gonna say tsunami, but that's a season later. Speaking of the tsunami, in one of the opening episodes of season 3, Buck isn't allowed back into the fire department because he basically had this injury because of the whole fire truck landing on his leg thing. So the captain, Bobby, wouldn't let him back into the fire department. Because of that, Eddie's like, hey, you're gonna babysit Christopher because Carla's not around, my parents are in Texas, blah blah blah. And Buck is like, okay, sure, I'll babysit Christopher. Buck brings Christopher to not like a carnival, but like a fair or whatever. I don't fucking know. A tsunami just happens, and they just happen to be there or whatever. So Buck saves Christopher, and then they get separated at one point because Buck is trying to help other people, and Buck spends the entire episode trying to find Christopher. It's like one of the highest rated 911 episodes because it's just Buck trying his best to find a child, and everyone in the world is, it falls victim to enjoying a good fatherification of stories where it's like, if you have a good relationship with your dad, watching Buck search for a child that isn't really his child, like, it pulls on your heartstrings. And if you have a bad relationship with your dad, it still pulls on your heartstrings because you're like, man, wish I had that. And if you are a father, you're probably thinking of your kids. So, you know, the story works for truly everyone. You know how it is. Buck isn't able to find him, and then he has to find Eddie and be like, hey, Eddie, I lost your kid in the tsunami. Your kid might be dead. Like, you know? And then Eddie's all like,
I tried.
and turns out Christopher's right behind them. He's right behind me, guys. So Buck feels like he failed Christopher because he lost him, but Eddie's all like, I failed that kid more times than I can count, Buck. It's fine. He's like, I knew you fought the hardest you could have, so it's all good to me, brother. That's not what he says at all. They just kind of look at each other all insane and gay, but like, the fuck do I know? What would I know about being gay, right? Nothing. So then Eddie and Buck just continue to kind of have like a queer platonic relationship, I guess. Like, Buck tries to sue the department for not allowing him his job back after his medical leave, which, like, I kind of agree that he should have sued them because, like there have been other cases where people get into a near-death experience and then get back on the job way sooner than they should have, and I think that Buck was entirely in the right for that, but that's a whole other topic. And basically it makes it so that Eddie can't speak to Buck because there's a lawsuit going on, and Christopher misses Buck, so he's like, you couldn't even bail me out of jail.
I couldn't even call you to bail me out of jail. If that was something that happened.
Because Eddie was in this Fight Club thing, which the jokes write themselves, really. Yeah, so they get in this fight in a grocery store about their kid, I say. The old married couple gets in a fight in a grocery store about their child. It all eventually gets sorted out.
Buckley.
They have this weird flirty moment in a kitchen.
No, I thought for sure that day in the grocery store you were gonna take a swing at me.
Not that you didn't deserve it. But I wouldn't do that. You're on blood thinners.
Oh, I'd still take you.
You think so?
I know. You wanna go for the title?
Want to go for the title. There's this whole thing that the show does where they basically will write like character begins, so like Athena begins or Hen begins, and they did an Eddie Begins episode. Basically, these episodes are supposed to just show how like the characters get into the fire department, or in Athena's case, like the police department. But they do an Eddie Begins episode where he almost dies trying to save a kid from like a well, and then the well collapses. As the well collapses and everyone believes that Eddie's dying, Buck just starts sobbing in their Captain Bobby's arms. But then Eddie lives, and it's fine. Eddie has another near-death experience where he gets shot by a sniper. This fucking show. Yeah, so he has another near-death experience, and Buck gets literally covered in Eddie's blood, and then has to drag Eddie under the fire truck in order to save him. And then instead of letting, like, the paramedics who are, like, on the scene, you know, help save Eddie, he starts doing it himself. And then to make things even crazier, Eddie notices that Buck is covered in blood and is like, are you okay? Are you hurt? And then Buck looks at himself and is like, I'm good. Like, he didn't even know to look at himself first. He was just like, we are saving your ass, you know? So because Eddie ends up in the hospital after all this, Buck has to tell Christopher what happened to his father, and Chris is like, I've already lost one parent, like, psh, get, like, light work, no reaction. And then Buck just starts sobbing, and it's like Christopher has to like parent him in that moment, which is so like, okay, like, it kind of makes sense because, like, obviously Buck experienced it and like watched him get shot and got covered in his blood and everything, so I guess it makes sense. But it's also just like, that child is better than me. Truly. Eddie then later decides that he's gonna put Buck in his will, and then he tells Buck, hey, I put it in my will that if I die, you're Christopher's legal guardian. He baby trapped him. He literally baby trapped him. There's also this thing where he's like, you think you're expendable, but you're not, Evan.
Because, Evan, you act like you're expendable. But you're wrong.
Okay, like full government name, or I guess not full government name, legal government name, legal government first name. God bless. I don't know, that man is Buck to me. Quit calling him Evan. Evan who? Who's this Evan you speak of?
Evan?
I feel the need to briefly talk about Buck and Eddie's relationships outside of their relationship with each other and Christopher, because they're just a little insane. Specifically, Eddie is a little insane. Truthfully, shouldn't be allowed to date women, like actual menace to women. You know that thing where it's like, if you hate women so much, start dating men. That's how I feel about Eddie. It's not even that he hates women. I'm just gonna go into it, whatever. He meets this woman, I think it's Anna, but for some reason I heard it pronounced Anna once, and in my head it's been Anna, but I'm pretty sure it's Anna, which she's one of Christopher's teachers at one point in time. She's literally like the perfect woman. I don't even rank women, but like, she's a 10. He has a panic attack after someone thinks that his girlfriend is his wife. Like, they're in a store and he has a full-fledged panic attack. He thinks it's a heart attack and he has a panic attack, and then he breaks up with her. Oh my god. And the way he goes about breaking up with her is crazy. They're at like a table and she's like, I need to go clean up the kitchen, and he's like, maybe you should go home first.
You know, I think we need to clean that kitchen first.
Maybe you should go home first.
Eddie, who are you? Who is this diva? Like, there's something about, like, the idea. Just, like, you have a girlfriend. Someone's like, oh, is this your wife? And you're just like, and then you have to go to the hospital about it. Like, what? Who wrote this? Who wrote this? He then later, in another season, he dates someone named, this is also one of those scenarios where I heard it pronounced Marisol, but Eddie pronounces it Marisol, so I don't know. It feels wrong to not say Marisol because that's just how I heard it the most. He asks her to move in with him, and then later cheats on her with someone he believes looks exactly like his dead ex-wife. And then his son Christopher walks in on it happening, and then Christopher decides, hey, I'm gonna move to Texas with my grandparents because that's crazy, that's traumatizing, and you're crazy. So that ends that relationship. Buck, on the other hand, is kind of okay to his partners. I feel like they usually fumble him, but like, debatable. As previously mentioned, he dated Abby, who is someone who's like twice his age, whatever. She leaves him to go to Ireland after her mother dies. She's like, I need to go find myself. So that ends that one. She shows up for like one episode with a fiance, which is like, okay, good for you. Like, Buck lives in her house for like a season believing that she's gonna come back, and then she just doesn't, which, like, okay. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that in a minute. He starts dating a woman, Taylor, and it doesn't work out because he cheats on her, so, like, that one's pretty bad. He has other relationships. They're just not as important to his character, so I don't feel like bringing them up. I feel like this is a good time to mention, from seasons 1 through 6, the show was on Fox, which basically was like, no, girl, you're not getting a bisexual Evan Buckley. Yeah, and the show was supposed to end at the end of the 6th season, but then ABC picked it up and they were like, yes, girl, you're getting a bisexual Evan Buckley. So that's where shit got interesting to me, because I had seen this ship on Tumblr many a times and just decided to not look into it because I was like, neither of these men are gay or queer, why would I watch it? This is where it gets interesting in the bisexual sense. There's basically this entire plot line where Buck realizes that he has feelings for this guy Tommy, and Eddie keeps hanging out with Tommy. So for the entire episode, it seems like Buck is trying to get Eddie's attention. Like, this is my perspective, which people can perceive this however they want it, but like, the way I perceived it was he was trying to get Eddie's attention. Like, he starts lifting weights in front of Eddie. He picks up basketball even though he doesn't like to play basketball, and he states that he doesn't like to play it. Injures Eddie during the basketball game. He confesses to Tommy that he was trying to get Tommy's attention, and even Tommy is like, my attention?
Trying to get your attention has been kind of exhausting. My attention?
But I guess Tommy's down or whatever, because then him and Buck kiss, and it's like, all right, so I guess Buck is bisexual, and I guess he found it out through Tommy, I guess. Then there's this entire plot line where Buck isn't ready to come out to anyone, so him and Tommy break up, and then he comes out to his sister in maybe like the funniest way possible.
I love women. I've always loved women.
How long have you been leaning in the other direction?
I haven't. Not specifically. I mean, sure, I'll check out a hot guy's ass, but that's normal.
It's not abnormal.
His sister is like, when you're ready to tell, if there's something you need to tell Eddie, you'll tell him. Then he does tell Eddie.
You and Marisol ran into me and Tommy when you were on a date.
Really?
Wait, Tommy's gay?
And Eddie's like, this changes nothing between us. which it probably should. They hug or whatever, and then Buck ends up getting back with Tommy. I think it's like the next episode, there's this entire plot line where Eddie says that him and Buck should go to Chimney's bachelor party and match as Crockett and Tubbs from Miami Vice, which is like this 80s thing that I had no idea about, but it made my mom giggle and chuckle a little because the bachelor party was 80s themed. And Buck invites Tommy and is like, hey, you should dress 80s. And Tommy shows up, but he doesn't dress 80s, which is giving, it's very like Jess and Sam from New Girl, you know what I'm saying? Chimney doesn't show up to his own bachelor party because he's got this whole thing going on, but Buck and Eddie end up partying anyways after everyone leaves. There's this deleted scene that I'm probably never gonna get to see of Buck and Eddie karaokeing What I Like About You. Never gonna see it, but it is what it is. They both wake up and they're hungover, and it's just like, it's just fun. It's just simple. It's just fan service. Chimney doesn't show up to his own wedding because he has this like virus that is causing him to not remember things, so he forgets his own wedding day. But eventually they find him and they get him cured of that infection, that virus, and they have the wedding in the hospital. So then Tommy shows up and him and Buck like kiss or whatever, and they get soot on Buck's face, and then they show up into the room that the wedding is happening in, and everyone is looking at them like, okay. And that's kind of just how he comes out to everyone. I especially love his parents. Buck and Maddie's parents' reaction killed me so bad. And then Hen going,
Well, it's about damn time.
like, gay sees gay, you know? Obviously everyone was chill with it, except for maybe Buck's parents, but fuck them. Okay, so now we're basically caught up to season 8, which is great, which is perfect because this is where shit is starting to piss me off. Eddie's main plot this season is about missing his son. He eventually goes and confesses to a priest and like explains that he traumatized his son when all he wanted to do was protect him. And he's like, I don't deserve forgiveness. And then the priest like later runs into him picking up juice at a store, but then he is like, I don't want the juice, I want the water instead. And then the priest sits him down and is like, and he uses this metaphor that's like, I think that you're denying yourself joy because you picked water instead of juice, which like, it's a stupid comparison or analogy or whatever, but like Eddie takes it as truth because a priest told him it. Father Brian also talks about Eddie's mustache, and I miss Eddie's mustache so bad. I miss the mustache so bad. But yeah, Father Brian talks about Eddie's new mustache, and Eddie said that he wanted to grow a beard, but the Los Angeles Fire Department doesn't allow beards. And then the priest says it's a disguise. Are we hearing this? He wants a beard as a disguise. Are we hearing ourselves? Are we hearing ourselves? He's like, I'm straight.
Oh, listen, no offense, I'm straight.
I don't believe that.
Relax, guy. I like gay men, you know.
That's great, but I'm not gay.
I don't believe that.
The priest tells him to go find his joy, and Eddie's like, I'm gonna go shave my mustache and then recreate the risky business dance in his living room. And that's what he does. Like, what the hell? Sure. Crazily enough, in the same episode, Buck finds out that Tommy was previously engaged to his ex-girlfriend, Abby. Tommy basically didn't know that Buck had dated her, and he was like, yeah, Abby met up with some himbo half her age, and, you know, whatever. But it's fine, because, like, I'm a Kinsey 6 anyway. He didn't know that Buck was the himbo half her age, so he just said that, and then Buck realized, oh my god, Tommy and I dated the same woman. But then he's like, you know what, I want Tommy to move in with me, because he has this conversation with Maddie and Maddie's coworker Josh, and Josh also happens to be gay, but they ask him a line of questions about, like, loving Tommy, and Buck's face is like, love Tommy.
Do you love him? Do I?
Love Tommy. He seems, you know, put off by that question, but he answers all the other questions by being like, yeah. And literally all of the questions that are asked to him apply to Eddie more so than Tommy.
Do you care for him?
Yeah, of course.
You're romantically inclined toward this person.
I think that much is obvious.
Do you think about him when he's not around? Are his concerns your concerns? Is his happiness at least as important to you as yours?
Yeah.
And could you see a future there?
I could.
Regardless, Buck asks Tommy to move in with him, and then Tommy's like, I'm gonna break up with you. And then that's what happens. But his reasoning is like, I'm your first, I'm not your last. Which, like, this feels like bi erasure in a way, because it's like, Buck has dated so many people, and like, yes, you're his first boyfriend, but you're not his first relationship, so it's like, why would that matter at all in this context? Like, it just seems like he doesn't believe bisexuality exists. It's giving Kurt Hummel telling Blaine that he couldn't be bi, which, to be fair, Blaine wasn't bi, but it's just like, you know what the fuck I'm saying? It's like, I would say bi, but I wouldn't want to make you angry.
I'd say bi, but I wouldn't want to make you angry.
So they break up, and Buck goes to Eddie's house and lands on his couch, which is right after Eddie does his whole risky business thing in his underwear. But I need to briefly explain couch theory. There's this entire plot line where Buck doesn't have a couch at his apartment because he doesn't want to choose the wrong couch again.
Buck, you don't even have a couch.
My last 2 couches came with girlfriends.
I think you mean your last 2 girlfriends came with couches.
Taylor moved out 4 months ago, Buck?
You could have replaced the couch by now.
Well, maybe I don't want to pick the wrong couch again.
And he's basically just talking about how his ex-girlfriend brought her couch to his apartment and then, you know, moved his couch out to put hers in place of it. Everyone talks about how, like, your couch is your place to, like, recuperate without going to bed, and it's just an entire plot line for some fucking reason. And I don't know how exactly to explain it other than, like, Buck relates the couches to his exes because the exes bring couches and they don't work for him. And then, at the end of the episode, he ends up, like, falling asleep on Eddie's couch and not his own, like, bed or apartment, like, his own couch. Like, he just falls asleep on Eddie's couch. And it's like, okay, so you brought up the couch to be like, yeah, it relates to his relationships because they don't work out and neither do the couches work. And then you're like, okay, but Eddie's couch works. And it's like, oh yeah, it's just explaining that they're really great friends. And it's like, okay, but he could have just bought his own couch and fallen asleep on it, and it could have been like, Buck is happy to be alone and take his time to himself. But instead it's like, okay, he fell asleep on Eddie's couch. And if you're relating it to the relationships he's been, you know what the fuck I'm saying, you know? Now, this episode where Buck and Eddie have ended up on Eddie's couch, drinking beers together, Eddie has found his joy, and Buck has just ended his first relationship with a man. I believed I was in the clear to start watching the show after I had saw the clip on TikTok. I went, they're gonna put these two together, because, like, Eddie's in his underwear sitting on his couch, Buck is there, they're drinking a beer together, he just broke up with a man. Like, I feel like I'm in the clear. Like, I had heard about this show many a times through Tumblr. You know, I spend a lot of time on Tumblr. It's, you know, it's in the bisexual formula. I was on Tumblr, and I knew that that this ship was a thing. I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna get queer baited if I start to watch this now. I thought I was in the clear from this episode, so I started watching it. And here I am. I was like, I can't watch it because I'm gonna be queer baited, and yet here I am being queer baited. So the next episode opens, and Buck basically is like, I need to call or text Tommy, and Eddie's like, I'm stealing your phone from you because, no, you're not doing that. So then Buck starts baking as a coping mechanism. A couple episodes later, Eddie decides that he needs to move to Texas to be with his son Christopher. Buck is, like, obviously gutted, but he's like, I need to be supportive because I understand that Eddie isn't happy without his son. There's this moment where Eddie, like, flips a tablet because he's looking at houses on the tablet, and Buck is like, what are you looking at, Eddie?
What are you looking at, Eddie?
And it's just like, are you flirting with him right now? You think that's porn. And then he looks at the tablet thinking it's going to be porn, and it's just houses in El Paso. It's just a little flirty. You looking at your friend's porn? So in the next episode, Eddie's looking for someone to rent his house in LA so that he can buy a house in Texas, and Buck pretty much intentionally fucks up all of the viewings of the house so that Eddie won't be able to move, and then Eddie later calls him out on it. There's this entire thing where Buck saves a dog from, like, a burning dog shelter, and then he adopts it, and then the family of, like, the owners of the dogs find out that he has the dog, and they come pick up the dog, and then Buck is like, he goes on this entire, like, monologue, and it's supposed to be this analogy for, like, Eddie leaving, and it's just like, this fucking show is so ridiculous, and I love it. Buck decides that he's going to sublet Eddie's apartment or house or whatever it is so that Eddie doesn't have to worry about finding someone to sublet it, and they just look at each other very platonically about it, you know? And then Hen is like, you guys should hug it out, and that also felt really platonic. So in the next episode, Buck's sister is kidnapped by a serial killer, and he seems more worried and upset about Eddie moving. Eddie gets his U-Haul, and Buck gives him some protein cookies that he baked, because you know how Buck is with baking now. They exchange some very heterosexual words to each other.
I know this whole thing between us has been messy and hard, and both of us could have handled it a little bit better. But I hope you know, you do matter to me.
I know.
And then they hug each other like you and all your platonic friends do, with like your ears kind of kissing each other and shit like that. And then Eddie looks back at him before he leaves, and whatever, it's all normal here. And the crazy thing about this is the way it directly parallels to Buck's first relationship in the show with Abby. Like, Abby moves out and Buck moves into her apartment, and then Eddie moves out and Buck moves into his house, you know? And then even the framing of the scenes are very, very similar. People on TikTok, you know, edited the shit out of that. But yeah, Eddie goes to Texas, and the rest of his plot line thus far has pretty much just revolved around him trying to fix his relationship with his son, Christopher. In the next episode, Buck basically misses Eddie so bad that he can't sleep in Eddie's house, which is crazy, because it's like the whole couch theory thing is like, it's kind of confirmed, because, well, not even confirmed, it's just like, we realized that he didn't find comfort in Eddie's couch, it was Eddie, which, like, we fucking knew that, you know what it was, like, the implication was, but it's like, okay, so, like, hashtag confirmed now, like, okay. He ends up sleeping at Maddie's house, and she suggests that he tries to go make new friends, because apparently he's just too codependent with Eddie. So Buck tries to befriend Ravi, who works at the fire station, and they go out drinking. Buck basically tells this story when he's drunk, and he's like, Eddie did this illegal thing, and I support it. And Ravi's like, isn't that illegal? And he's like, no, that's not illegal, because Eddie has a silver star.
What? No, it's not illegal. Eddie would never do something illegal. Eddie has a silver star.
I would love that phrase to be used in every single instance we could ever use it. Eddie would never tell his girlfriend to get out of his house. Eddie has a silver star. Eddie would never join an underground fight club. Eddie has a silver star. Eddie would never cheat on his girlfriend. Eddie has a silver star. I don't know. It's just very funny. It's just funny. I don't know. Ravi ends up getting so frustrated with Buck that he finds Tommy in the bar. He pulls him over and he's like, you guys should talk this one out. Which is like, Ravi, how could you? Buck makes a big mistake and ends up hooking up with Tommy. The next morning, Buck wakes up alone in his bed, which couldn't be me. If I was in that scenario, I would be big spooning Clifford the Big Red bisexual every day of his life. He would never be waking up not in my arms. That's so fucking stupid. Buck goes into the kitchen and Tommy is making breakfast, and Tommy's basically like, I think we should get back together, and Buck is like, you changed your mind? And Tommy's like, well, yeah, now that the competition is gone. What? And Buck is like, competition with who?
Now the competition's out of the way.
Wait, what do you mean competition?
I'm mostly kidding.
I'm mostly kidding about what?
Never mind.
No, wait, I want to know. Come on, competition with who?
Come on, Evan, don't make me say it.
Wait, Eddie?
You mean to tell me you think your relationship with Eddie is normal? Like, and basically Buck's only excuse for it is that Eddie is straight, and then Tommy scoffs at that.
Okay, this is not his house. He was a renter, and he's straight.
Okay.
Tommy insinuating that he doesn't believe Eddie is straight is like the funniest fucking thing to me, because then it's like, if you think back, Tommy was spending a bunch of time with Eddie, like hanging out with him, playing basketball with him, going to Vegas with him, whatever. And it's like, do you think that Tommy was like trying to get with Eddie first? Because he doesn't believe Eddie's straight.
I'm not gay.
I don't believe that.
And like, were you taking Eddie out on a bunch of dates? If you're thinking about Eddie when we're having sex, and I'm thinking about Eddie when we're having sex, then who's flying the plane? Baby, there is no plane. Buck is like, I know how to get myself out of this situation perfectly. I don't sleep with everyone I have feelings for, and I don't have to have feelings for everyone I sleep with.
You know, I don't have to want to sleep with everyone I have feelings for, and I don't have to have feelings for everyone I sleep with.
And Tommy's like, okay, so I'm just gonna leave then. Did you just imply that, one, you do have feelings for Eddie, and two, that you don't have feelings for Tommy? It's like, you're in love with Eddie. Yeah, you're right. Like, that's pretty much what just happened. So then Buck and Maddie have this conversation about if Buck is in love with Eddie. And Maddie's like, it wouldn't be that crazy.
You must be in love with him?
Are you?
In love with Eddie?
It wouldn't be so crazy.
And I feel like, you know, this felt like a nod to the audience to be like, you guys aren't crazy, because Maddie can see it too. Maddie, who knows Buck better than anyone else, is also like, yeah, it wouldn't be crazy if you were in love with him. It feels to the audience, it's like, we feel affirmed. We feel affirmed in the way Maddie's like, yeah, it's not crazy. And Buck is like, everyone wishes I was pining over my straight best friend. And it's like, baby, no one said that.
As much as everyone seems to want me to be hopelessly pining for my straight best friend, It just isn't like that.
So it's like maybe that was another nod to the audience of like, all of you want me to be in love with him and I'm not. But it's like, it's weird. It's contradicting because what Maddie says feels affirming, but what Buck says feels less affirming because it's like no one in the show said that he was in love with him. It's just like the audience. I don't know. It's weird. The episode ends with Buck unpacking all of his stuff at Eddie's, and it's just like, you know, this is Buck's place now. The next 2 episodes have like these 4 FaceTimes where Buck is basically just helping Eddie parent Christopher, and it's just adding to the whole like co-parenting scenario. There's this entire thing from season 1 where Buck is talking to Abby, and he's like, you know, if a relationship is real serious, we FaceTime. And him and Abby never FaceTime, but now him and Eddie are FaceTiming, which it's like, which could mean nothing, which could mean nothing. That's basically where we've currently left Buck and Eddie. Eddie's still in Texas, so all of the shit that's gone down where it's like, oh, did a main character just die? Eddie's not even there to figure it out. Whatever, I guess. It's just crazy to me because Eddie's a main character. Like, he's in the main cast and he's not around, but like, they're allowing Tommy to be around. It's like, get this bitch out. I just feel insane. I feel insane trying to watch this show because it's like they were clearly trying to set something up with Buck and Eddie, and it feels like they would rather just like just slightly dip their toe into it so that people can make insane edits where it's like using the audio of like in love with Eddie, and people create like cinematic masterpieces when they, you know, make an edit of Buck and Eddie, and it's just, it draws in more of a queer audience. And I know because I'm a victim of the TikTok edits pulling me into watching the show, and I know that there's tons of other people who felt the exact same fucking way. And it's also just crazy because like they made Buck bi when Eddie is more queer coded. Like it makes me feel insane. It truly makes me feel like an insane person. I don't know how to even explain what I'm thinking, but it's like they would rather just have people drawn into the show because of the people who make the queer edits of them than just actually making Eddie gay. Which is like, if you just actually made Eddie gay, people would be drawn into the show regardless. But instead you have to tiptoe around and figure out a way to like add dialogue that people will make edits with so that you can get your audience without making Eddie gay, which is stupid. What I was trying to say, and I didn't spit it out correctly, is sometimes it feels like they are trying to create plot lines that are like editable so that people make edits of it, and the edits draw the viewers in instead of writing a story that comes from like concrete like characterization. Like they're writing a story without following like previous plots. They're just writing like, which to be fair, 911 has never been a show that's been like about following like realism, which is why the whole Bobby Nash dying thing right now is fucking stupid and ridiculous, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, no, it feels like they are writing a show to gain viewership instead of writing a show from the characterization that they've created. Hope this helps. And it's crazy because Eddie, I would argue, is more queer-coded than Buck. Eddie grew up a Catholic in Texas. He was a competitive ballroom dancer. He got his first girlfriend pregnant and joined the army so that he could provide for them. He had a panic attack when someone thought that his girlfriend was his wife, and the only relationship he's ever been able to hold consistently has been one with a queer man. I don't even know. It's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous to care about this much, and I really don't, but I kind of do. Because queerbaiting pisses me off, because it's like representation matters, and it's just like, you could just accurately represent what this character is, but instead you decide to just not, and it pisses me off. Like, every main character on this show has been able to hold down a consistent relationship that like stands since the early seasons, other than Buck and Eddie. Bobby and Athena were set up pretty early. Hen and Karen were set up very, like, literally day one. Maddie and Chimney have been set up very early. It's just like, there's a reason that Buck and Eddie are not, like, their relationships aren't working with other people, and it's because they have set up a relationship too good between Buck and Eddie that it's like, you could set up the perfect character for either of them and it still wouldn't feel right, because Buck and Eddie just have a history. And it's also just like, no matter who you pair them up with, it's not going to feel as important. Buck is in Eddie's will, not a girlfriend. Buck is the one living in Eddie's house. He's not living with Tommy. Every relationship they've had in the show doesn't work, except for the one that they have with each other. So at this point, it's like, they have too much history to just put them with someone else. It wouldn't make sense. And you'd think that the writers would get that. And people comparing them like brothers is crazy. People comparing them and saying that they're like brothers is crazy. Like, do y'all think that Mario and Luigi are chilling like this? No. What realm are you in? I don't fucking know. I don't care. But like, it's not brotherly, and I will die on that hill. I will die on the hill, and I don't care. The thing about it is the show relies on insanity, you know, getting rebar through the skull, getting struck by lightning and living, getting your throat slit, getting shot, living through a tsunami. But obviously 2 men in a relationship is where we draw the fucking line. Like, get serious. Get so serious. There have been so many things pointing in the direction of Buck and Eddie getting together just in this season. So much so that I started watching the show, you know? Like, it's bad if I thought that we were in the clear and then we weren't. That it's just, like, even the guys that play the characters are, like, relatively on board. Like, obviously the guy that plays Buck is like, yeah, I'm fine with it. Like, he's fine with kissing a man. People have asked him what he thinks about Buddy, and he's like, I'm watching the same show. I don't think they're wrong.
You know, I see what everybody else sees. Like, I watch the same show. I don't think that the Buddy fans are wrong.
What are we doing? Chat, what are we doing? Like, they moved networks. You already have, like, 2 lesbians in your main cast. You've had Buck with other men. Like, what are we doing? So if it doesn't happen, like, I'm just like, what are we doing? We've lost the plot. But that's all I'm gonna say for now. I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot, but I don't really care. I don't really care, I say, after talking about this for 55 minutes. The producer, Tim Minear, seems to have lost the plot and is jumping the shark with a lot of plot lines, so I don't really have hope that he's going to sort this out or handle it well at all. So that's where I'm going to leave that. Okay, bye. Okay, hi again, I lied. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. Like, I know I already slapped an intro on this video, but I wanted to slap an outro on it just because there's a couple things that I didn't talk about. First of all, I know that there's some stuff that I missed in there. The Christmas elf saying that Buck and Eddie have, like, a wonderful son. There's a bunch of shit that I missed with Buck and Eddie. Like, the lightning stuff, whatever. There's a ton of shit that I missed. This wasn't supposed to be, like, a serious timeline of Buck and Eddie. This was just me literally dumping everything. Not really as a joke, but just, like, for a friend, for them to better understand it because they don't watch the show. This wasn't supposed to be, like, a serious video, a concise, like, well thought out video. This was just, like, I wrote a thing down. I wrote a bunch of stuff down in like, an hour and then decided to yap about it for an hour, and now it's going on the internet, which might not be the best idea, but I'm not known for great ideas. So if I missed your favorite moment, I'm sorry. This wasn't cohesive. Another thing is, I don't know if I'm going to post any more of these. I don't know if this is going to do well. I had videos that did kind of well to me in the past, and I decided to private them because I have this weird thing about being perceived on the internet. Like, in real life, if someone doesn't like me, I'm like, I don't really care because I don't have to see you. But when people leave, like, a negative comment or leave something about my looks, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, it does get to me because I am a real person. I am a real boy, so it does hurt my feelings. Because it's like, I can post anything, and then this video can end up on any other platform, and it just scares me a little bit. I don't know. Like, I'm pretty young. I'm only 20, so it's like, I don't know if this is going to haunt me down the line, or if I'm just gonna find younger me funny. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, the internet scares me, so I privated a lot of the stuff I made. So, if you're wondering if I'm gonna make a comeback here, I don't know. I don't know. I made this video, thought it was a little bit funny, was like, sure, I'll post it, because it's like, it took me less than a week to make, and I was like, yeah, okay, like, sure, what the hell. It just kind of sucks. I do like making videos. I know that, you know, this isn't, like, the best video ever. I'm filming on photo booth on my Mac. I don't make, like, a huge grand effort to make, like, the most high quality thing. I just, like, I kind of just do a thing and then make the effort to find the clips of the show and then put them in. And even the clips of the show in this video are, like, the quality, like, differs frequently because I just go on YouTube and then clip grab all the clips instead of just, like, downloading the episodes, because it's like, I'm not gonna download the whole episode and take up, like, gigabytes of storage on my MacBook when I could just not. So I get that, like, the videos I make aren't the highest quality either, but it's like, I don't know. It ends up, like, I make something, and I am proud of what I did in a sense, because it's like, I think this is fun, and I know that some other people think this is fun, but I know it's not the highest quality thing I could make, so I'm like, do I even post it? And then I end up rewatching my stuff, and I'm like, nitpicking every single detail, but I know that other people like what I post, so I'm like, I don't know if I'm making a comeback or not. And honestly, I probably shouldn't have put this entire tangent at the end of this video, because there's probably, like, maybe there's gonna be people that show up here and they're gonna be like, who the fuck are you? But I know that I get comments, and my comments are filtered because, again, the internet scares me a little bit. And the comments are like, when are you coming back? Like, are you doing another video? And I'm like, my brother in Christ, I don't know. Like, I don't know. But I figured I'd just drop that tangent in a video because there are some people that are like, hey, where the fuck are you? And it's like, I'm alive. Trust and believe. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making a comeback. Maybe. Maybe one day. The internet scares me right now. So, we'll see. Okay, bye.